today. Let me get my stuff moved around. Good to see you, General. Who all you got with you today?
I just have about 11 ways.
All right, go ahead and push that button because you're gonna be talking this whole time. So you got Scott Levenway with your legislative stuff. So, all right, I'm gonna open the door. Let you start your presentation if you'd like.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much for allowing us to be able to come and talk to you a little bit about our budget. We're pretty much level. We're not a whole lot of difference, and I will go into it. You're going to see a number of about 567,000 that'll pop up there. That's and I will just upfront tell you that's in case the state wants to allow us to give raises next year, and that's what it's for. So when you see that, that's what it will be, and then we'll cover some other issues as we get into it. If you just go with me with the briefing. The first page that we talk about is our general fund appropriation. And in 24, we got $3,193,230. And then we 25, we got 3,000,006. And then we're going up to the 4.17. And that's because of the 567,000 that I was telling you in case the raises are in there. Okay. That's only if that's there in case the states are willing to allow us to do it. We get off-road fuel state level at 3,050,000. So our total is going up to 7,221. Our expenditures, our salaries and wages will be 4.17 if we do the raises. If not, it'll be back to 3.6. But we're
not on that.
Okay. The next page, we talk about salaries. Our salaries appropriation general fund is about $3,193,230. Our federal funds is 2.499, and other special funds is 4.23 million, 243 million. Our total is $9,935,638. We have 173 pins. Out of that, state appropriations, federal appropriations, and then other special funds, it totals it up to the 173. That was in 24, and then in 25 we went to 12.7, and because of the special funds raising to 599, and then we also got a raise in the general funds and the federal funds. That was because we put the percentage in, and y'all allowed us to give raises that year. Okay. Then in 26. That 560,000 that we're talking about, and our federal funds, what we did is we just went ahead and escalated them 7%. We escalated them 7% in case we could give up to a 7% raise, and I think that's what it was last year, and we just worked off of that for this year. So, any questions on that? Our total is $13,632,134 for appropriations and authority to spend, and 173 pins still. We did change everything, everything's fine, the same. The only thing that changed was federal funds went from 37 in 2024 to 38 in 25. And then our other special funds went to 119, from 119 to 118. So we just switched a couple of up in there. Any questions?
We're going to get to that here in a second. You keep going, President.
All right. Thank you. If you look at the next page, that is talking about it. That's we're requesting additional for agency salary raises, and that's the only thing it is. That's at $567,116 that we're talking about. All right, and that's assuming that we could give up to a 7% raise. Okay. Any questions? If you look at the next page, we have this, and I put it in here. Out of that, $280,412 of the general fund appropriation, and we're requesting additional funding for it for Marine Patrol salaries. If they've allowed us with the state personnel to be able to align our Marine Patrol officers with the state Capitol officers, and that's what they're doing in wildlife. I think you may have already talked to them, but same thing with us. I have the money to do it right now. In the appropriations, there's enough money in it. And then when I put this in there, you'll see it says in there that these increases would align with Marine Patrol, but it's if we're not allowed to do it. I'm asking them right now. I'm asking them for in the 25 budget to let me be able to do that. If I need that, if I get that done, I will not need this 280,000. Does that make sense?
It does. Go ahead.
And so I'm waiting on them to give me the answer. And I think we're going to get a positive. I'll be honest with you, I do think we'll get a positive answer out of personnel. And so that will just realign it already to get us in that. Now, we're not taking it, if you want to know the answer to that, whenever we go into that, we're looking at them and we're going to the level of where they would start at, how many years they have in service. But we're not going to the top of anything. We're not, I'm leaving room in there for my officers to be able to progress. And that's the one thing that I want to do is leave room in it for the officer to progress. And just to give you an idea, say a lieutenant, if the base was 61 and they had 15 years and it would put them at 68. Well, if they're right at the 15-year point, I'm probably not going to go to 68. I'm going to go to give them progression because they don't get another raise for 5 years. The way that is set up. So I don't want to get an officer stalemated, but I do want to get them to the point where we can be able to compete with where, if you look at our cities and our counties and what they're paying in other areas, we're losing officers. I lost a great one the other day because he said, I can't afford to do it. He said, I can make a whole lot more money.
I'm good, sir. Thank you. I'm good.
And I said that I can make more money go to D'Aberville. We were paying him 42,000, I think, and he went to 54 with them and just that quick. And he said, plus I can get overtime. And I mean, it's killing us. It's happening everywhere we turn. And I think you're seeing that statewide. I don't think it's just DMR that you're going to see that. So that one thing, that 280,000 is a number that may go away if we can get this put in and the budget, and which is in the budget if we can just get approval for it. Okay. Does that make sense?
It does. We're following you.
Okay. All right. If you go to the next page, and we're talking about salaries, then we'll talk about travel, contraction, and commodities, equipment, vehicles, subsidies, and then bond payment. This is our Tidelands budget, and in the Tidelands budget, we in far as FY 26, we're looking at 1.6 million, and that's because of that's including part of that 567,000 for the raise. Okay. If they are allowed. If you look at it, it was 1.5 million last year. So it's about $100,000 is what it's looking at with it. So if that's if it's approved. If it's not, when it will go back to the same number. If you'll notice that our travel is staying the same, our contractuals are staying the same, our commodities are staying the same. Everything is the same all the way down. And the bond payment, it varies, but this year was 1.569, and we don't have the actual payment for next year. And as soon as we get that, it will be at least 1.569 for the bond payment. So we're putting that in there, but that'll all be covered under that because when they do the appropriations bill, they pull out whatever the bond payment is and put it in there. So it's a guarantee to be there. And that's one thing. And I might reemphasize once again, the DMR is the only agency that I know of in the state that pays its own bond back. And I'm paying a bond back that happened prior to 2013, 99% of it that we didn't have any control over. But we are paying it back, sir. But we're paying it back with state money, so it doesn't matter. State money, state money. That's the way I look at it. But that's pretty much covers everything unless you got any questions on that.
I think we're gonna have questions. Is that everything you got?
That's everything I got unless you want something else.
All right. To the committee. Senator Thompson, Senator Delano, Senator Brumfield. Pass and retain. Okay. So I am gonna be and this is what everybody is listening has hearings coming up. Needs to understand we have an SPB sheet that I look at now. And that's from the agency. From what I see on your SPB sheet, you're asking for about 909,000 in total for progressions. Is that right?
Well, no, sir. It was.
Well, that's the one you submitted right here. It's 547.69, 368, which comes to a total of 909,000 with all fringe and included if you're going to give your.
Oh, yes, sir.
As it is.
Yes.
From your progression money in here, it looks like you're hurting on some, you're changing a few titles in here. Fortunately, you're only doing that with 2. So it's about 17,000 there. Now, all DMR employees, everybody's getting a raise?
No, sir, it works. Now, we try to give a raise to a point and but it's all in a percentage rise. Some of them get, well, a little bit more than others. Last year, we were able to give some 10% because what I did with that is I went to the ones at the very bottom of the totem pole. The ones that was making $25,000 a year and tried to give them more of a raise than the one that other, because they're hurting so bad to being able to, to make ends meet. And then after that, then we looked at it, and this year we did give everybody a raise, and it's once again, it's to match up with where we're at. When we looked at SEC squared, and they told us when they put that SEC squared out, and it said that this is market and this is where you should be. Well, they all believe they should be there. Every one of them believes they ought to be at market. And I can tell you, I only have one person at market, and it's at a lower paying salary. The rest of them are under market. And so what we try to do is raise them up because with the colleges and the other federal agencies and all, they're hiring them out from under us. And we, when they're giving them a $10,000 a year raise, I can't do anything about it. The people at DMR want to be there, and they're doing it for just like a law enforcement, just like a military, just like our firemen or anything else. They're doing it because they love it, and they're not doing it for the money. That's a guarantee.
And I understand that. And as a whole, this is an echo chamber right now because all we're hearing across every agency is we can't keep people. And I understand that. But if you're saying we're looking at 10% last year and we're asking for a 7% increase this year, 17% in a matter of 2 years, if you do that, that's a pretty substantial increase. Now, do I think a lot of them are worth it? Absolutely. Do I think maybe we still have some waste in government? Oh, absolutely. So I think it's a very, very difficult fence to walk there. So, but I do see that you have all DMR employees. Are you saying that if you're given that 7% authority there and the funds are there, you're going to give everybody 7%?
I'm not saying that, sir. What
Okay.
I'm saying is that would give me the authority to give up to 7%.
All right. So I will say this, General. I don't like that answer right now because I want to know that it's going to the right people. And you have never shown me that you're not doing the right thing. But unfortunately, the longer we have these hearings, the more I find that people do give them on the wrong end of the spectrum.
Yes, sir.
So just understand, I'm not being difficult there. I just want to know that it goes to the right people because we do have the people out there right now protecting our waters and our coastline down there. And I want to be sure that they are compensated properly.
Yes, sir.
Going down that sheet a little bit, I see some existing vacancy funding have you filled any of those since then?
Yes, sir. We're in and out with the vacancies, and our vacancies fluctuate just like every other agency. We don't, at any one time, we hardly ever reach 173 pens because we just have the numbers fluctuate in and out. But we do fill them, and one of the things that holds us up is that basically, they gave us progression money, and then they give you the vacancy money. And the vacancy money is a lot larger than the progression money.
Not this year. But it traditionally, I agree with you.
The reason why the vacancy money is larger is because you requested to fill these additional.
I understand.
positions. So they have liked to keep that separated because in years past, agencies have given raises off of vacancy.
I understand.
positions.
Did it myself years ago.
Yeah, so there you go.
And I'm not any different than the rest of them. I'm not going to say that we didn't do some of that. So we did. I agree with you 100%.
So tell me, so moving off of our employees there, and I appreciate you indulging me to speak on that, or to ask questions about that. Tell me about your current funding, your special funds. Are we seeing any changes on any of that as far as like the fuel tax, the saltwater license fees? Are we seeing that staying pretty steady?
It's staying pretty steady. And, the fuel tax obviously comes from the state, and that's just a number, that off-road fuel tax that they give
Right.
us. And it's been the same for years. It hadn't went up, but, and I know that they look at different things about the taxes and all, so I'm not going to get into that. But as far as our agency, as far as the federal funding, I don't know what's going to happen. And, with the federal government today, we'll look at it. And, but I think very strongly that we will probably stay level. And they do ask us every year to put in for raises. And so we do put that in. We put it in and ask, and they say, what will the state allow you to get? And that's what we put in. And so we put in that for our federal funds. And that's what we ask for. Whenever we just like a coastal zoning, if we'll say that we got 14 people or something that are federally funded, and, you know, in that, we'll put in for a 7% raise for each one of them, if that's what the state is allowing. And that just gives us the money to have the authority to do it. And sir, in reference to your statement about the, how many people will get what, we were trying to get people back to just a little bit of a point of getting even to where they should be, where we could keep them in there. And I think that this year, after we were able to give some raises this year, and when I said the 10%, that was only a handful of people, all right, that got 10%. And then once we were able to get that to a point, then next year we will start being able to take it and do what I think that you're asking and some others are asking, is tell me on a graduated scale that this one may get 1%, this one may not get any percent, this one may get 7%, but up to the level of what they're doing and what their ability is and what we need to keep them. Is that what you're asking?
So that's where we're going towards, from the requests that are going at LBO, the sheet, this year is the first year we've utilized that sheet. And it adds a lot of depth to our conversations because we do see that people are to make sure that it's going the right direction. We're not asking to know what Jim Smith and John Doe out there are making, but we do want to know that that position is being properly funded to the levels it needs to be,
Right.
So that's my questions on that. So,
And my law enforcement, obviously, you know the law enforcement side of it.
right.
And right now, we're basically at about a $40,000 start pay. And they're starting them in the counties and the cities at about right at 50. So
I understand.
And if we do this with this realignment, that will give us up to about 46, 47 right at it that we could be able to pay. And that'll help us there to be able to hire new officers coming in off the street. And then obviously it's graduated according to that up, to the level.
Yes. Questions, committee? Corbin?
Do you have any language changes that you're requesting in your appropriation bill?
No,
No language changes?
I don't think there's anything that I know of.
Okay.
The only thing that I would even say in the appropriations, I've talked to them every year about it, is I wish that whenever they took the things like the titlings, or they do it with the titlings, but I'm talking about the GOMESA, that we list the old projects separate and not join them together. Because when we join them together and we do that and join them together, then people think they got more money and they don't. And it looks like it, that.
So to do it more like we do GCRF currently.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that is 100%.
Tylen's has in the DMR budget, Tylen's is broken out and it's got a fiscal year denoted next to the project because some of the projects take more than a year.
Right.
GOMESA, which is again annually recurring funding, there is no fiscal year noted. You see, right, like there. There's no fiscal year noted, so it's really hard to tell unless you know what the new appropriations were. You really can't tell from just reading the budget that goes out to the public.
Gotcha.
What I would like to see, if y'all could possibly, if you help me with it, is that I send the LBO a list that says, these are the old projects up to 2025, okay? Because we're talking 2026. These are the new projects approved by the legislature and the governor on the 2026 bill, and just separate them. And that way, if you do that, then everybody will be happy and nobody's going to get argument about it or anything else. Because this last year when they did it, just to give you an idea, like Pass Christian is one of them, they put together, they had two projects, and one of them was for a bulkhead and one of them was for something else. Well, they'd add them together and they thought they got all that money for the bulkhead or whatever. And they're like, oh, no, wait a minute. No, that ain't what happened. So I mean, it was an honest way of trying to do it and y'all were trying to work it. And maybe if we could correct that. If I had one thing that I'd ask for, that would be it.
We'll be happy to work with you on that.
And yeah, not gonna change a dollar.
Like I said, the only thing that I'd like to see a much more detailed SPB sheet when your agency sends it to LBO.
Okay.
That way, whenever I ask the questions, they're not scrambling trying to get it at the last minute for me to know what we're doing with the money.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a fair answer. Question.
Last questions? All right. General, we appreciate you coming in today. You know where to find me if you have any more concerns, and we appreciate you coming up.
Well, thank you very much. And I appreciate y'all's hard work and what you do to help us with this. And thank you very much. And we understand that that, and we will give you the best answer we can on any of it.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank
Y'all be safe. All right, it's gonna be the Forestry Commission. Welcome. You know our committee here, our subcommittee, so we appreciate you. I'm gonna let you go ahead and start the presentation. Mr. Moses. Please push the mic if you don't mind.
Don't have any handouts you want me to pass out?
Yes, sir, we do. We just have some numbers, that go over, show you what the agency's been doing for the last fiscal year. As many in the room are well aware, we've had, plenty to do. The 23 drought led to quite a beetle infestation that, took out a lot of pine trees. So we've been dealing with a lot of forest health issues, over the last 18 months and, had a lot of landowners to assist. We normally assist several thousand landowners every year. That number is going to go up this fiscal year for sure. But we've got real good partners, including in this building. We appreciate everybody's efforts in helping those landowners, the forest landowners in the state. I mean, it's a, 19.2 million acres, $15 billion industry in Mississippi. So far, we've had about $170 million worth of damage to the forested landscape because of that drought, which led to that beetle kill. We are starting to see some wildfires. We run into our biggest wildfire season is in the spring. So we are watching these fuels, dead trees when they hit the ground become fuels. So we're watching these fuel loads very closely, working with our partners at like the National Weather Service and others on drought conditions and that sort of thing. So we're doing good. We're hanging in there. I will say that the wildland firefighter pay increase that we received last year as part of the State Personnel Board's equitable compensation plan that the State Personnel Board approved, that y'all approved and funded last year, has gone a long way to helping us get quality applicants in the agency. Our rangers, techs, and foresters particularly are looking much better shape today than we were a year ago when we were here. So greatly appreciate the efforts of this body in helping us obtain that last year. And it is definitely proven to be fruitful. We've got a little ways to go. Obviously, we had some stuff that's been working its way out of the system. When you had the salary ranges where we did for the years that we did, some of those employees are working their way out of the system. But what we have coming into the agency has been very, very nice. In fact, one of the things I'm most proud of is actual getting foresters. It has been extremely difficult for my agency to get actual foresters, registered foresters, to come work for the state, primarily because of the salary range. But we have. Region 4, my southern region, was the one that was hit the worst. There's more industry down there. Therefore, there's more opportunity for foresters to seek higher paying jobs. So we had a real hard time filling it down there, but we've got 2 that have started recently. So out of 6, we had gotten down to 1, but we're now back up to 3. We're 50% full on foresters and have real good lines on some foresters coming in before the end of this fiscal year. Hopefully be back full staff with foresters in our southern region, which was the hardest hit. So I really do appreciate the efforts of the body. Our budget request this year, because of your efforts last year, is flat. We're asking for the same special funds number and the same general fund number. Our only changes, so to speak, are in the authorities within those numbers. Particularly on the salary authority, we have asked for an increase in the salary authority number, just so we can continue to carry out the remainder of the State Personnel Board approved plan that was presented last year, which included my entire agency. So with that, I'll gladly answer any questions the body may have.
Committee? Any questions from the committee? All right, so I do have a few questions. So I've got an SPB sheet that y'all submitted, and it seems to be very generalized, and I have concerns about that, especially in our history. As it says, accounting manager, and it says ETC, experience-based equity adjustment, $742,000. I have concerns about that. You and unfortunately Marine Resources are the 2 agencies that came in here in my group and just did a general number. So I would like for you to give me some idea of what those numbers are going to be and where they're going. Every other one does account it to 3 positions. Total ask $42,000 for those 3 positions. And I think that's just because at the end of the day, we're trying to be sure the money goes to the right people. I do see on your forest ranger and the things that, I asked Chris to pull those numbers so we could see where the money's going. Do you have any changes to classifications on here? I don't see you putting one on here, but did you have any this year?
Classifications.
Your classifications, 16, 14, whatever it may be. Your title changes will be your classifications on the sheet. Are you doing any of those?
No, sir, not this
Okay.
year. That was all done last year under the wildland firefighter pay increase.
Okay.
There were some changes to classifications, and then the state personnel board gave us an agency minimum. For example, for rangers, got moved up to 30 within the increased classification that they gave us. So no, sir. So to answer your question, if you recall from last year, the state personnel plan included my entire agency. So what we targeted first, what we needed first was rangers, techs, and foresters. Those are our folks on the field or in the field that do the lion's share of the work. It's also 2/3 of our agency. 2/3 of our agency is at the regional level. They're out in the counties that do the work. The rest of the agency, it consists of forest protection, fire chiefs, fire personnel, overhead personnel, forest management. We have a forest management chief, and then his personnel that's over forest health, like our code and grass program, Southern Pine Beetle program, those sort of things. And then information and outreach. Those are the three main things we're tasked for by the state to do. And so each one of those has a director, so to speak, or management chief, a chief. And some staff. So, and then business services. So all in all, the other third of the agency was also included in the state personnel board plan that was approved last year. For example, when you look at not everybody within the agency, and the plan that was approved was that formula you referenced, equitable compensation floor based on years of experience. So we've got people within the agency in those other program departments like protection, management, business services that have been, with the agency or employed with the state in some capacity for 25 plus years, but are still below market rate for their current job classifications. So this increases to correct that. It's the second half, so to speak, of the state personnel board plan from last year.
And I understand everything you just said,
Okay.
but I don't totally agree. Right now, I want to see the number. I want to see the positions that we're doing. Your accountants are going up. You have 68 that you're asking for money on, $742,000 worth, divided among 68 people. So all I'm saying is bring your classifications, put your number in there for the request. Everybody else is. Marine Resources headed back to get theirs. Corrections yesterday have already contacted SPB to get it. I talked to Ryan Beard this morning. And he said, if you want, I would, but he'll get it for me.
Okay.
So I
Ryan's-
think the
Ryan's
agency
already
should bring
got
it to me. So, and it should be brought in. Chris is new, but Chris now understands what we like.
Understand.
So
Well,
doing a
and
good
Ryan
job
has
with
that
it.
information at the state personnel board. I didn't know I needed to bring it to you directly, but I'll make sure to have it next time.
It's all right.
Yeah.
What else? So you've got in here, and I am glad to see this travel's going down from 358 down to 170 this time. I think it's because we don't have as much out of state firefighters headed out west right now.
Yeah, California didn't request any. They ran into a lot of problems here recently, but the rest of the country in the western half of the state, the western half of the country was quiet enough that they had enough resources on that end of the nation to handle what was happening in California. So they didn't have to request from over this way.
That's good. That's surprising. I figured we'd send somebody, but I'm glad our guys needed a break for a year.
Yeah, I hope so.
Guys and gals.
Yes, sir.
So what about, you've got your equipment down here. You're jumping up on that this year. We replacing dozers and things this year.
Yes, sir. Tractor plow units, they are not cheap. Heavy equipment continues to rise. So yeah, we are making a purchase for our rotation schedule. For the state recommended 15-year rotation is 12 dozers every other year. And instead of doing 6 a year, we do 12 a year because typically the manufacturers will give us better pricing.
Right.
If we do it that way. Using the
deal.
reverse auction process.
Committee, any other questions from y'all? This is what I get for setting a meeting at 8:30 in the morning.
Yes, sir. Well, I try.
Corbin, any questions from you? From
None right now.
Chris, anything from you?
Good.
Good right now. Well, we definitely will look into it, just supplement some, information in there and, we'll go from there. As long as you're doing what you say you're supposed to be doing, then we've had no trouble. Remember that. So,
Yes, sir.
well, we appreciate y'all. We'll let y'all out of here now. I think you've suffered enough.
Thank you, sir. We greatly appreciate your time today.
All right. Y'all have a good afternoon. Somebody's got to ask a question this time. You have not on either of the other here. Oh, Doc, we appreciate you coming on in. If the committee is good with it, we'll go ahead and keep rolling a little bit earlier than usual. So, yes, sir, please push that button for me if you don't mind. Go ahead.
Okay.
I know you have a lot to tell us in a short amount of time.
That's right. How much time do we have?
I'll give
15
you
or?
15 minutes.
Okay, all right, we
Plenty
should
of
be.
time.
I'll breeze through it. I think everybody here is pretty aware, so appreciate it. Dr. Watson, this is Dr. Hope Martin, Kim McCrory. She's the Deputy State Veterinarian and she's our business administrator. So when I get through talking, she answers all the questions that have to do with money. But anyway, thank y'all. We got two handouts for you. One is just our annual report that we just kind of bring. So there's nothing really relevant right this second in that. The main thing that I wanted to use as background as we get into our budget request or the handout with the maps and everything. So, yeah, so everybody all of a sudden woke up and realized egg prices were, 80% higher, which I don't know why they suddenly woke up. They must not have been going to the grocery store for the past year, but Cal-Maine, I should have bought stock in them 5 years ago. I retired, but anyway, so high-path AI is the reason, egg prices are so high. For some reason, these huge laying operations they're so concentrated now. There are usually at a minimum 3 million birds per facility, and a lot of them have 5 and 6 million birds. And so when sometimes they're all in, they're not usually like in one giant barn, they're in 3 or 4, whatever, but on a property, we know that avian influenza, bird flu, once it gets into one house, because it is so contagious, by the time you find it, you've already spread it. And so we have to take out. So I saw on the news last night that everybody's blaming Joe Biden for killing all the chickens. And in reality, that is a response plan that has been in existence for over 20 years, that whenever a farm tests positive, you have to take out the whole farm. We've tried through the years to not do that, and it never fails that within 3 weeks, not only does the rest of the farm go down and get infected, but you've let that virus circulate for another 3 weeks, and then it spreads to other farms and makes the problem worse. So that's why we just automatically now obviously a 5 million bird layer operation takes a little longer than a 2-house broiler breeder farm that has 40,000 chickens in it. So it does take a little while, but that's the real story behind what you're hearing on the news now, that everybody all of a sudden woke up. And so what's happened is not only have, I think the last statistics I saw from USDA, we have had to destroy nearly 60% of our country's laying capacity. Plus, we have lost somewhere 20 or so percent of the birds. So they hatch them, they live somewhere till they're 14 or 15 weeks old, and then they go somewhere else. And then they actually start producing eggs. And so what we've done is, because different phases have been affected, not only the birds that actually lay, but the younger. So we've got a problem. It's not gonna fix itself immediately. It's gonna take a year once we get this disease under control, which is part of what we're talking about today, is that this disease is not carried by people from farm to farm like most of our other diseases historically. And so we've targeted being really careful, not letting farmers share equipment, move from farm to farm. This disease is literally coming out of the sky in migratory waterfowl, ducks, geese, whatever. And so somehow, either based on the birds flying over, spilled feed around a farm, vultures are a big problem because vultures feed on the dead carcasses of birds that die. And so geese are highly affected. They die like crazy. Ducks typically don't die. They carry the disease. They're healthy and carry it. So there's multiple ways that on a given farm, what happens is, the way a farm gets infected is somebody on their shoes or their clothing walks it inside a chicken house. That's just Occasionally there are places where a fan may suck it in. But typically a piece of contaminated equipment or clothing or boots is what brings it into a single chicken house. And so because you can't get rid of the ducks, because there's millions of them, and Mississippi River is a major flyway. So the major flyways, the Pacific coast, the Atlantic coast, Pacific coast, and then there's several within our country, the Mississippi River being a primary one. So these birds are traveling, a lot of you, if you're duck hunters, they migrate all over the world, and they go south in the winter, come back. And so they're constantly moving, sharing virus. And so there's no way to eliminate it. So we're faced with, the experts tell us that this new wave that came in from the Pacific coast back in November is the strain we got on our farm. So hopefully all of we had 2 farms, 1 week before and 1 week after Christmas. Those strains were that strain from the Pacific. So we're not going to anytime soon get rid of the virus. So the threat is going to be there. Unfortunately, also, this new strain has a tendency to make people sick. Mainly right now, it's conjunctivitis, pink eye. You may be aware of a man that died the week before Christmas or after Christmas in Louisiana. He had this strain. So I say all of that to say, number one, the threat's not going away. And part of my request is going to be extra protection for my people that have to go into these chicken houses to depopulate the birds, to protect them a little bit more than we have been doing. You hear a lot of fear mongers out there, the next pandemic. We have seen that mammals have become a little more infected. We've seen the dairy cows. We know that sea mammals, seals, coastal mammals, dolphins have died by the tens of thousands around the world. So I just say all that to say the virus is here. It's not going away. Our goal since 2015, when the disease spread in a similar fashion, but it went farm to farm, is that we've learned that if we can get that farm depopulated as close to 24 hours from detection, that stops the spread. And on the second page, the upper right-hand picture, the Google Earth picture, is an example. So in the upper right, you can, if you really look close, you can see a yellow pin. That was our infected farm. Literally across the street, a couple of 100 yards, was another 10-house farm. And within the less than a mile zone, you see these others. So it's crucial that we respond quickly. Anyway, before I move on to the actual financial part, that was just sort of background. The dairy cows, we've been testing dairy cows as a partnership with the health department. We've been testing all of our dairies within the state. We were the first ones in the country to USDA to call sort of free from disease. We did that so our poultry farmers would know if disease were close by, because the disease in dairy cows jumps to poultry farms and kills chickens as well. So anyway, any questions just about bird flu or that, and then I can quickly go through our increase requests that we've got.
Any questions on the bird flus?
Yeah, just, you've got all the equipment you need to depopulate and all that.
We do. We're going to be asking for an additional piece of equipment based on the size of the last farm. But right now we do have equipment, and so last year, y'all gave us money to purchase a foamer. We realized on a 10-house broiler farm, 1 foamer is not enough. And so we're asking for another one this year. But yeah, y'all have been good to keep us. So we currently have enough to meet today's demands, but there's some issues coming up that we're asking for additional funding.
So I do have this question, and since we're not even in numbers yet, just because our constituents, of course, are hearing about this, what is the, swine flu eventually mutated down to something that was less susceptible to the public? What is the expected progression on this? Are you thinking it's going to be like a 5-year cycle that we mutate out into a point where we have some immunity as a herd, or?
That's a $1 million question that all the experts, USDA has a division called Wildlife Services, and they focus purely on, and they have a division that tests, some of you may be aware of Chris Godwin and her Wildlife Services. Her folks, so they on the Mississippi River test hunted ducks, just to give us an idea. And so last summer, the numbers went way down and we thought we were getting into that cycle. And we, in fact, 2 years ago, USDA was prepared to declare us free because the numbers went way down. As you're saying, there was some immunity in the wild birds and the numbers went down. Unfortunately, what happened in November, a new strain hit the Pacific coast and has moved. So the 2021 strain hit the Atlantic coast from Nova Scotia and moved westward. This strain hit the Pacific coast. So to answer your question, this particular strain, yes, we would anticipate it following some sort of natural cycle, which nobody can predict. But what we have now seen that has not happened previously, in 2015, we had a strain that came in, it disappeared and was gone for 7 years. Since then, since 2021, it's just been constant. So right now today, if you go to the meetings where all the experts that do surveillance and watch it worldwide, because it is circulating at such a high level in Europe, there's just no expectation that it's going to really change. I mean, it may mutate to a lower pathogenic virus, and there are a lot of them. There are a lot of avian influenza viruses out there. Many of them don't even make chickens sick, but these have done that. And so I can't really answer that. I wish I could.
Well, the other question I would have is, you know, y'all are doing a great job of depopulating and doing what you can to control this. Is there a hazard on the eggs? I mean, if
No,
someone,
so to address that, because a lot of the public gets
Right.
nervous, to date, the virus really hadn't made people sick in terms of consuming or whatever. It's mainly we're worried about the virus on eggs, somebody touching it or having chicken and it's spreading to other chickens. With regards to the eggs so the broiler breeder, so our first outbreak was on a small farm in Greene County, and they produced eggs to go to the hatchery to be broilers. So USDA, over the last few years, we've determined that if the egg was infected, it would die before it hatched. And the hatchery itself, for the number of days it takes to hatch an egg, the heat in there would kill the virus. So we no longer destroy the eggs off of a breeder farm. We let them go to the hatchery. So it's kind of an indirect question, but it's two pieces. The chicken industry part, there's really no danger. From the human consumption part, they wash these eggs, they're sanitized. So there really is, there's no, even if it came off of a farm before they found them, the eggs would be treated. And then there's a certain group of eggs that get broken and pasteurized. You know, the egg industry now is huge, and all eggs don't go to the grocery case and you buy them. You know, like when you go to any restaurant and you eat scrambled egg, most of those are liquid eggs that have been treated or whatever. So I guess the big answer is no. There is really no threat to the human population from a consumption standpoint, because protocols are, if you raised your own backyard chickens, even at that point, they tell us when the birds start getting sick from bird flu, they quit laying. And so the risk would be very, very low. But if you read any publications, it tells you to always wash your hands, being careful, don't raw eggs, anything raw eggs, raw milk. That's bad. But anyway, sorry, I'm probably.
no,
way more
you're
into
fine.
that question.
And that's this is really just more of an informational part of it. Do you expect us to be shutting down our borders for any of the backyard hatcheries or anything of that nature?
Not now, because when they're in a control zone, there's permitting that's required. So for right now, we're bringing day-old chicks in from other states that have the outbreak. And so it's all looked at in terms of what's the risk. And so baby chicks are virtually non-risk, eggs are virtually non-risk. It's the adult bird that poses the risk. And so we have in the past shut down our borders to flea markets and people that bring birds in or have
Right.
shows and exhibitions. But right now, that's not something that it needs to be done.
There's your informational time, guys.
One quick follow-up question to something you mentioned. Based on what you just said, I understand that consuming raw milk probably is not a wise idea.
Yeah, that's for multiple reasons, but so right now, if y'all have seen in the news, cats have actually died from eating raw pet food, and it had milk and turkey products in it. And so the when bird flu gets into cows, the udder is the place it reproduces. So for people, it reproduces in your lungs and you cough and get rid of it. For some strange reason in cows, it's in the udder where that receptor is and the virus replicates. And so milk is a huge contaminant with the bird flu virus. Cats that drink it die. Birds, workers that get it on their hands and touch their eyes get sick. And so that's besides all of the other diseases that get into raw milk, and routinely health departments have to investigate human illnesses.
Does it cause mastitis in that udder? Or?
Yeah, so it causes a mastitis. The milk gets really nasty looking. And even after the cow gets well, the cows don't die. They get well, but still for a period of weeks, that milk is still shedding the virus. Unfortunately, FDA did the work to prove that our pasteurization process takes care of that. So pasteurized milk is safe for any of the viruses that we really run into and diseases, brucellosis, TB. But again, the raw product is the.
The boss is back. We better get to numbers.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. All right.
Tell me what we're looking at this
All right,
year.
so what we're looking at is, so the next page was just our LBO for reference. And so what that last page is, the numbers up there are what we're asking. Our disease response fund replenishment. So it takes us around $70-ish thousand to respond to an outbreak, but and so we've had two, but we're asking for an additional response trailer, a 10-house chicken farm, just one of our trailers that produces the foam is not nearly enough. And so we have one new one. We have a very old one that new one replaced last year. So we're asking for another one so that we would have two new ones and then have the old one as a backup. Where the capital funds, there is because the operating system on laptops has changed and our IT department says they can't work on them anymore. We have several old laptops, and so we're asking for a one-time expense to replace those laptops. And then we're asking for some salary progression funds. Our poultry people and some of our other livestock folks are way out of whack in terms of meeting the market response. So we're trying to get some of them. So, and part of the justification for that is, as I'm now our depopulation response team is made up of our livestock inspectors, because we bring them in and we try to keep our poultry people separate, because once they're contaminated, they can't go to other chicken farms. So our livestock guys come in and so that we're putting them in a more and more hazardous situation with the virus. And so if we're asking them to do more work, and the foaming has some technical aspects to it as well. So we feel like because the poultry industry has really separated the market from our poultry folks, and our livestock inspectors are being asked to do more, we're asking for salary progression funds for that. So those are the four areas there you see listed out that break out the different funds that we're asking for.
My turn. I got a
Yes,
few
sir.
questions for you. Committee, you got questions before I start? First question I got for you, how much is in your current account, for the response, your response fund? Have you zeroed it out?
I
'Cause-
don't know. I don't think we're,
We haven't paid for everything yet from these last two breakouts,
Okay,
but we feel like that we would have, it will be close to closing it out. but we
I
will-
think you probably are holding about 250,000 in there
yes,
right
it's a
now.
$250,000.
But you say you think you're gonna be able to pay for all your responses from that fund, those
We
funds?
do.
So you're not looking for any type of, okay,
Yeah, at this point, so what we've tried to do is, because it happened right before Christmas, we're still, and it takes a while to get all the, so we're trying to get all of the amounts in, and then we'll start drawing it down to offset that. So if we don't have any more outbreaks or no more than one other one, we don't feel like that in addition to that, we would need a deficit appropriation. The problem is, in the past, we've never had these big farms, these 10-house farms. So to give you an example, with the paperwork that USDA has us sign in order to give authority to depopulate a chicken house, they get all the numbers and everything because they pay indemnity. And so it's a $2 million payout from USDA to the grower and the company on that 10-house. So it's a pretty big event, as opposed to the 2-house broiler breeder farm was about a 75. So what I'm saying is, proportionally, our response also is more on these bigger ones. So you never know whether a huge one's going to get hit or a little bitty tiny one.
right. But you think that just, so you're asking for the increase of 369, which will be your 20 for your laptops, general funds increase of 129, and the fund replenishment, you're only asking really for the fund to be replenished at 220,000. So I
We
mean,
feel like right now with the foamer and what we've spent that we need to draw down, that's what we're calculating our need before the end of the fiscal year to draw down the capital expense fund that would need to be replenished.
that's just 3 farms. You're saying $70,000 a farm. I
Well,
mean, you're not really
we're-
going far.
Well, that's right. And there was some talk originally about it being a $500,000 fund, but that was what 250 was what. Historically, in the 22-23 year of the 11th November of 22 March, we had two farms, and then this year we've had 2. So it's like a rolling the dice. There's no way
Right.
to know, but we're so appreciative of this much because it's what we didn't have before. We'd have to come for a deficit appropriation. So it keeps us from that. So it's hard to know how, I mean, if this thing really heated up and we started having, like some states, 4, 5, and 6 outbreaks in a year, then yes, this would not be enough. But
I would anticipate that you have some type of interstate agreement among some areas where if so it got to that level, or if it was something substantial, that y'all could all work together at some point and figure something out.
in terms of,
If you had, if you were running 3 different, if you only have 2 rigs and you have 3
So-
farms, do we have someone to come on the backside
there's
with?
not a lot, but there are some other states. And
Georgia's got to have something, and
Right.
Alabama.
The US Department of Agriculture has something like an emergency stockpile, sort of like CDC has. And so they've got units that we could draw from,
Okay.
assuming everybody else, it's kind of like a hurricane. If you're the first in line, you get what FEMA has. And if you're not, but with what has happened in the past 3 years, this is sufficed.
Yes.
There's no way to predict the future.
Well, I appreciate you being real with it and not asking for the sky here. I will say this, and I want to commend your staff. Your SPB sheet is probably the most detailed one that I've gotten, with your justifications there listed, and with each of your areas. I see your epidemiologist listed on here, that you've got 2 of those. You're asking for progressions on, among some others in there. I do see you have, you still have some vacancy funding in here, looking for a vet, hoping to find another vet in 26.
Yeah,
Difficult
that's
task.
Honestly, the what veterinarians are making these days. The dog and cat veterinarians have made it almost impossible for large animal vets. That's one of the primary reasons. We won't get into that, but even at a state. So yes, we're looking. I'm not really sure what kind of hope we have.
Yes.
But the 2 points I want to make is one, I've always tried to come to y'all with asking no more than I need. I know a lot of people ask for a lot and then hope they'll get less. So I've always, for 26 years, and I've been chastised for it, but when I come to you and tell you I need something, that's the dollar amount I need. And Kim is really great at helping us get all that justification and budget stuff. So we try to let you see what you need and tell you this is what we need and not more.
Very good. Committee, Mr. Chairman? Corbin,
Just so we're clear, on your sheet, it asks for $220,000 up here, but then right below it, it says requesting $125,000 to replenish the fund. So are you requesting capital expense for 125 or 220?
We're asking for the trailer, which is 95,000. And also we have an older trailer that we want to kind of get fixed up so that it could be like a command center. There's a lot of paperwork that goes involved with these outbreaks, and we have to have people on site. And so they could have a place to do that. And it wouldn't be anything fancy. It would just be on an old trailer and just setting it up for that. And then the $95,000 is for, we're estimating that the 2 outbreaks, we're estimating that that's what the cost will be. The previous ones in 22 and 23 were 135, I think, combined, but we've learned how to use our resources more efficiently. And so we don't believe that it'll be that high.
Okay, so I guess in looking at it, the 125 explains all of these, and then down at the bottom, 95.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
sounds good. Thank you.
any other questions? Dr. Watson, as always, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Emily, did you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want you to speak, Dr. Watson, if possible, just really briefly about how the intention of replenishing the fund was originally federal reimbursement except for equipment, and now that's maybe not as certain. Thank you.
Yes. And so USDA allows us to put in place an emergency co-op agreement. So the way these work and what we thought was going to happen is that it's like a disaster response. The state spends the money, then you turn around and you bill USDA. So some parts of what we spend, we're allowed to get reimbursed back from USDA, not the total amount, but so anyway, USDA last year cut all of our cooperative agreement amounts to the states by about 7 or 8%. So we do get some money back, but it will not be enough to replenish what we spend. The other thing is that last year and then what we're asking this year, USDA will not reimburse for equipment. And so the only thing we get reimbursed for are overtime and personnel and consumable supplies. And if we have to hire contract people to help us on the farm. So that sort of thing, similar to, I guess, what in a disaster response. So some pieces of that, we're hopeful that we will get back and that we can contribute back into the fund. But the big bulk of last year and this year with the trailer and the protective equipment, which I really didn't speak to, but we're going to step up a higher level of personnel protective equipment. It's going to cost about $2,000 one time per responder for 12. So that was what so those things do not qualify to get reimbursed by USDA, but some pieces of this will, and as that comes in, we will work with how to get that. But it will be 6 or 8 months from now before, and that's what part of the problem is. We start skipping federal fiscal years and state fiscal years running, July 1 and October 1 and how USDA works. So we're trying to get that where at least whatever we can get will come back into the fund.
I'm gonna have to cut you out, Doc.
Yes, sir. No
because
problem.
We do have Arts Commission to do. Just in a second. We appreciate you, committee. You know how to get up with him if you have any questions.
So.
And thank you
for
so
any
much.
Further questions, right? We'd be glad to come over and meet.
Thank you so much, Doc.
Emily.
As always,
Appreciate
it's a
y'all.
pleasure.
Thank you. That makes sense now.
Okay. Well,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good to have you all. We'll see you in the morning.
Thank you.
I'm here in support of the Arts Commission. Where may I sit? Over there? How are you doing? I'm all right. Thank you.
No, Lydia, I don't.
I got one.
Trouble. We have a ton.
Yeah.
We'll be quick. We'll be quick.
It's chairman of the Mississippi Arts Commission. I'm here to be an expert witness on their behalf.
I'll get out of that. All right, as they're passing that out, we're gonna go ahead and get started because we do have to gavel in at 10. So the floor is yours. Please introduce yourself and your staff, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Subcommittee Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for being here as well. And thank you, Senators, for being with us today. Hey, Bryce. My name is David Lewis. I'm the Executive Director of the Mississippi Arts Commission. We serve as a granting and programming agency for the artists and arts organizations across the state of Mississippi. In programming, we provide technical assistance. We also have an state arts conference here in Jackson that gathers a lot of our arts community members together to learn about the best things that are happening both in our state and around the region, and really to network with each other and learn kind of best practices and connect with each other. We also host the Governor's Arts Awards, which will be next Thursday. I invite you all to come. Let me know if you would like to be there. We'd love to have you there. It's a great opportunity for us to really highlight the best that Mississippi has to offer in the arts, our artists that go out and really represent us the best to our ability. I often tell people that you can't tell a Mississippi story without talking about the arts at some point. A lot of really great legends in literary, music, visual arts, performing, theater, and film. We also have the Arts Hour on MPB, which has been going on for nearly 20 years and highlights artists in Mississippi and the careers that they have and the work that they're doing. And then a lot of what we focus on is granting directly back to Mississippians and to Mississippi organizations that are putting taxpayer dollars right back into our state economy. We focus on quality of life and organizations that really elevate a lot of the creative experience, a lot of events, festivals. Those are our grantees that we support. Through our artists, we grant fellowships, which is a very competitive grant program. We only award about a third of these. So this is the top tier authors, performers, visual artists in our state that receive this support. But artists can also apply for mini grants for supplies or to pay for a booth fee, say at the book festival. And then we also have an apprenticeship program that allows for our traditional and folk forms of art like basket weaving, crochet, silversmithing to be passed down to the next generation. For example, there was a young lady a couple years ago who was 19 and did the apprenticeship. And after that apprenticeship, her skills were so strong that she joined the Craftsman's Guild at a very young age, which is really exciting to see that next generation engage in that way. We also had an artist who was a part of the apprenticeship program. Then he's a potter. He started his own business and now is training other artists through that apprenticeship program. So we're seeing that legacy continue. One of the really powerful things that we found this year looking at our data is that specifically in the programs and grants that we grant to, looking at about $1.5 million of the majority of that grant pool, we noticed that there was a total investment of $32 million, which is about a 1 to 21.5 return on investment ratio. That's dollars that are being invested directly into Mississippi for arts-based economic development. We also, through those programs, saw about 1.9 million people engaged in that programming across the state. Again, this is not a full picture of the arts ecosystem or all of the events in Mississippi, but really specifically looking at the dollars that we're able to invest on behalf of the legislature back into the state of Mississippi. Our ask this year focuses on an increase to that grants budget as we have been able to get out to more communities, to more districts, to reach more Mississippians. We are getting more grant applications. They are seeing, of course, an increase in cost of supplies and whatnot. So we want to increase that amount so that we can more fully fund that grant program. And again, take advantage of making sure those dollars go to the best impact, and that investment from state taxpayers is its highest and best value. We're also asking for support in our staffing. We're asking for 1 additional PIN, but additional staff support so that we can restructure our staff a little bit to best serve Mississippians as our portfolio is growing of grantees and serving Mississippians across the state. We are also asking within that for some dollars to be able to upgrade our website to meet federal guidelines as well. One of our really exciting big programs is our Building Fund for the Arts grant. This was a program that started in 2001 and ran through about 2007. And during that time, invested $19.1 million across the state in physical buildings that do year-round arts programming. You may be familiar with things like the Link Center in Tupelo or the Walter Anderson Museum on the coast, as well as the Brookhaven Little Theater or even the Constitution Firehouse in Vicksburg as well. This program has been back for a couple of years. We've been able to invest those dollars. About $11.5 million total in the past 3 years have been invested. In your packet, you'll see a report of a lot of the completed projects that have really transformed those spaces. This is a program that leverages additional private support or government support to be able to do this this investment in their local economies, into their local infrastructure for event spaces, for community spaces. This year, we're excited that one of the grantees is even the Pickens Library, which is the place in Pickens where a lot of the arts programming happens. It's a great program. We're asking for $6.3 million for that. This is a capital expense program. So we know that based on when you get to the end of the session, kind of know what the surplus is, we'll be able to get that. But we hope that you'll be pleased with the projects that we've been able to fund through this program. Our whole schools program, which also has a report in here, has continued to see tremendous impact in the way that scores in those schools have tested higher than their sister schools in the districts. This is a program that focuses on equipping our core curriculum teachers to incorporate arts principles into their everyday class. So if you're teaching math and counting, you might use painting and colors to be able to do that. You might use movement or dance to be able to teach different aspects of whatever subject that teacher's focusing on. That program really invests in the teacher, doing professional development, also supporting the program director as well. And we've seen anywhere between 10 and 20 points in each subject higher in those districts, those schools in those districts. We're asking for maintained support for that program as well. At this point, I'll take any questions.
We can start with the committee. Committee, Senator Thompson Tate, Senator Berry, Senator Hobson, Senator Chazanall. We have to gavel in at 10 now.
I can talk fast, thank you. I am intimately aware of the benefits of the Mississippi Arts Commission. I served on the commission in the 90s when Governor Fordyce was governor. I visited many of the whole school sites because I was the chair of the commission twice during my tenure there. I've seen directors come and go. Some have been great, some have been so-so. We've got a really great one now. I suggest that we give him what he needs so that he can continue to do this wonderful work, because this helps me as chair of tourism to promote Mississippi as a place where the arts are significant and people want to come here and hear our fabulous musicians, see our wonderful visual arts, see our performers that come here and internationally. So we have a great opportunity here to enhance not only our image, but be an incubator for the arts in Mississippi. And I hope that the members of this committee will agree with me that this is something that's worthy of our funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you so much, Senator. I do have a few simple questions for you. I have pulled up your SPB sheet and I see that you are not looking at any real progression changes. You are changing a few titles. And then you've got the headcount increase. And I wanted to approach that just a little bit. You mentioned an additional pen. But from my understanding, you're looking at getting rid of a time limited position and changing that into a permanent position. Is that kind of what you're looking at?
So the way we're looking at it is looking at taking one of our grants directors and making it a deputy director, taking our current executive assistant special programs director. That role has really built and grown. She's also our accessibility coordinator. We want to make that a program director position, and then the new pin would be for a new executive assistant.
So you are still wanting to have 13 as a whole, but
Yes,
you're
sir.
you're not wanting to get rid of any time limited.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I just wanted that clarification on that. Corbin, any questions? Russell? Well, we appreciate you. And if we had all the capital expense money in the world, we would fund everything you've asked for, Madam Chair. But unfortunately, we have to wait and see what happens at the end of session with
Absolutely.
revenues as changing as they are. But we will continue to support the arts in Mississippi. So we appreciate
so
you
much.
being here so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
With that,